In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, please, I welcome you all aboard to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about a two-part discussion as well, ladies and gentlemen. So, in the last lecture, we talked about problem and solution essay, okay? And just to recapitulate very quickly, so it was a four-paragraph approach. First paragraph being your introduction that has three things in it: your general statement, then you paraphrase a background question statement, then you come up with a thesis statement, yeah? Then your body paragraph one, in which you talk about the first idea, that is a problem, you introduce the problem, you explain the reasoning behind it, then you give an example, then you close the paragraph, you move on to your third paragraph, that is body paragraph two. You introduce a solution, you do some reasoning behind it, you give an example based on your own knowledge or experience, and then you finally, then you finally close the paragraph followed by a conclusion in which you just briefly summarize the main ideas along with the reasonings without adding anything new. Okay. So similarly today, based on a similar pattern, we're going to be looking at a two-part question double essay. So before I dig into an example that I prepared for you, what is a two-part question double essay? Well, it's very self-evident, right? As the name implies, the question is fundamentally fragmented into two parts, and you have to tackle each part of the question. So your body paragraph one, the first idea will be dealing with the response to the first part of the question, which is further explained, exemplified, and then closed. And then the same drill is repeated with body paragraph two. The only difference being that this time that is catering to the second part of the question, right? So without further ado, चलते हैं एक practical example की तरफ. मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ, फिर हम देखते हैं कि किस तरह इन चीजों को हमने tackle. For example, let's say they come up in a real-time exam, yeah? So I hope everyone can access my screen properly. I hope everyone has proper, exposure to it. So let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So two-part question double essay. The question is that in spite of the advances made in agriculture, many people around the world still go hungry. In a layman, from a layman's perspective, right? There has been a massive increase in agricultural technology, right? But despite those technologies improving, right? Despite all those improvements and advancements in the mechanizations of agricultural technologies, right? You still have so many people all over the world who are fundamentally bereft of access to these foodstuffs, right? Who go with hunger pangs in the tummy at night, or people who can't eat even twice a day, right? And obviously, through this passage, we can obviously, think for a second, and be very IELTS and everything apart. We can be very grateful to the Almighty, for the blessings that He has bestowed upon us, right? So why are so many people going hungry despite there being so many improvements in agricultural technologies? Okay, so why is this happening, right? And what can be done about the problem? Now, in this case, you could say that this is another example of a problem and solution essay. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you would be absolutely correct if you'd be saying that. But just remember that it's not always the case, right? A two-part question double essay. I mean, every problem and solution essay is a two-part question double essay, but not every two-part question double essay is a problem and solution essay. Whenever the question is fundamentally fragmented two parts, then you can always infer that it is a two-part question double essay. Format, procedure, जैसे मैंने आपको समझाया, is going to be the same as in the yesterday's solving, right? So just like that saying, right? All apples are fruits, but all fruits are not apples. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, so we know a question has three components. Number one, the topic, that is on agricultural technologies and global hunger, and then you have the two parts of the question being asked, and then finally you have the instructions, which are very important for us, right? You have to read these things very carefully. So the instructions are, you gotta give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience, write at least 250 words. Okay, so let us begin. How would I go about attempting this? Let's say. So we have our first paragraph, that is introduction, where we first of all talk about the general statement, right? So the general statement is basically the main topic of discussion. What is the main topic of discussion? That is global hunger, right? So this is me having written down my general statement. The topic of global hunger is becoming a matter of grave concern nowadays, right? Now that we are done with the with the general statement, what comes next? You have to adequately paraphrase the background question statement. Okay, this follows is your background question statement. So let's look at it. Despite technological progress in the field of agriculture, a substantial portion of the world population lacks adequate access to food. Our global village. Okay. Despite technological progress in the field of agriculture, a substantial portion of the world population lacks adequate access to food in today's internet-wide, satellite-covered global village. Okay. Okay, you have the thesis statement. The thesis statement basically addresses the two parts of the question. Okay, so why is this happening? Okay, so look, like I said, again, there's no one particular reason behind this matter, nor can you find one particular solution, nor is there one particular remedy. Okay, this is a very open-ended, argumentative style of reasoning. Okay, so but as long as you have one valid idea, okay, just feel free to pitch it. I found in this case that the high cost of manufacturing the foodstuffs, right, they were contributing, because let's look at it, right? You have the tractors, you have the pesticides, right? You have all the technologies, but the fact of the matter is that you don't have enough government subsidies. Farmers don't really get a lot of incentives, right? So they have to maintain their profit margins. They're going to raise the prices a lot, and not everyone can afford those high prices. Therefore, a lot of people are going to be deprived of access to those foodstuffs. Therefore, they'll be having hunger pangs, right? Therefore, there'll be a classical case of global hunger. So, and what could be done about the problem? Well, obviously, government intervention. You could obviously subsidize the process for the farmers, give them more incentives, and that happens, the prices will go down. Maybe more people will start affording them. Yeah. So this was my 2 penny worth of thought in the matter. So let's talk about it. Over the course of this essay, we will explain how high production costs are elevating the issue of global hunger, and how government intervention can be an effective strategy to deal with this troublesome scenario. Okay. Question is points of our introduction. So, second paragraph one. All right, we introduce the first idea, which tackles the first part of the question, that is, why is this happening? So, as I stated above in the thesis statement, fellas, that's because of high food production costs, right? So, high food production costs are the primary reason for the quagmire. Okay, quagmire means, menace, difficult, dilemma, problematic issue, right? High food production costs are the primary reason for this quagmire. Now, let's explain that further. This is my detailed reasoning. Despite surges in agricultural technologies and greater allocation of land for farming practices, government financial matters are non-existent. The high prices of tools, equipment, and machinery for sowing and harvesting the crops mean that farmers are left with no choice but to raise the price of food crops in order to maintain their profit margins. Yeah. So then, obviously, we'll give an example just to validate our reasoning. Okay, our narrative, right? For example, in recent times in Australia, the farmers have more than doubled the price of wheat within a few months, owing to the onslaught of drought, coupled with a drought, that is a shortage of government subsidies, right? Now that we're done with the example, now just remember your example, the positive reinforcement model, fellas. The example must always strengthen your reasoning. Okay, it must complement your reasoning. Okay, it mustn't contradict it, it mustn't backstab it or something. Then finally you have the closing statement. Hence, these high food costs mean that underprivileged people hailing from low-income backgrounds lack the economic means to purchase these expensive food items, which further exacerbates the dilemma of global hunger. Okay, so we're done with that. And then we talk about then now we move on to a third paragraph, that is body paragraph 2. Yeah. So in body paragraph 2, right, we introduce the first idea, that is, what do we feel is the, quintessentially speaking, what do we feel is the solution to this problem, right? We say the ultimate solution lies in government intervention. The ultimate solution lies in government intervention, right? Now explain it. How is government intervention gonna overcome this menace of global hunger, right? That is the entire crux of the argument for us. The government must facilitate farmers in financial matters, such as subsidizing the cost of farm machinery or giving low interest loans to farmers in order to help them achieve their respective profit margins without driving. Okay? I repeat, the government must facilitate farmers in financial matters, such as subsidizing the cost of machinery or giving low interest loans to farmers in order to help them achieve their respective profit margins without driving up the prices. Okay, obviously the more incentives the government gives, or the lower, absolutely, because the lesser will be the cost of production, right? And obviously it will be a win-win scenario for the farmers as well as for consumers. access to these foodstuffs, right? So there's always going to be a win-win situation for everyone. So now let us give an example to validate this idea, right? So for example, the United States Department of Agriculture, it runs more than 60 direct and indirect aid programs of farmers, which cover features including but not limited to insurance, agriculture risk coverage, and price loss coverage. All right, then closing statement. Hence, or therefore, government control and intervention as well as food security is essential in order to avoid aberrant fluctuations in the market prices of foodstuffs that they generally remain affordable to the lower income class. Hence, government control and intervention as well as food security is essential in order to avoid aberrant fluctuation in the market prices of foodstuffs that they generally remain affordable to the lower income class. Okay, so therefore this caps our closing statement for us. Now we're done with our body paragraph 2 as well. Now all that remains is for us to summarize both our both our main points, right, from above the paragraphs, right, the ideas, and then we're basically done dusting with this essay. In conclusion, despite breakthroughs in agricultural technologies, the menace of global hunger continues to linger. Continues to linger means it continues to occur, continues to happen, continues to prevail, continues to sustain. It's still out there, right? Just like the devil, right? In conclusion, despite breakthroughs in agricultural technologies, the menace of global hunger continues to linger. The root cause of this dilemma lies in high food production costs, which must be curtailed. What do we mean by curtailed? They must be, they must be overcome by effective government strategies and food securities. Otherwise, millions of people will continue to experience hunger pangs, causing the situation to take a quantum leap for the worse. Yeah, causing the situation to take a quantum leap for the worse. So, this is precisely our conclusion. Okay, so that is how you also attempt, just to summarize again. That's how you attempt a two-part question double essay, my dear ladies and gentlemen. 250 to 300 words. That's your word limit. Always make a rough sketch beforehand, and then your introduction. That is three things: general statement, paraphrasing the background question statement, thesis statement. Then you have second paragraph, third paragraph, body paragraphs 1 and 2. Same logic, right? Introduce the idea, explain it, give an example, then close it, and finally your conclusion. Summarize the ideas of the body paragraphs, right? Then you close it, right? So I trust that you all will be comfortable with this phenomena by now. Okay, and I hope now you've gotten a better gist, a better a better understanding, of what to do in these sort of essays, right? Always remember that at the end of the day, the ultimate or primordial focus, it has to be on the four bad descriptors. Okay, you have you have task response. Okay, then you have lexical resource, you have coherence and cohesion, right? Then your GRA, grammatical range and accuracy. So ultimately, just make sure that your arguments, they and sentences, there's a rhythm, there's a momentum, and you go from one paragraph to the other. They shouldn't contradict the idea of each other, right? On top of that, right, your vocabulary, your sentence structuring, right? It has to be up to the mark, and more importantly, you need to make sure that you are what you call addressing all parts of the question. Yeah, that is very, very, very important. Thank you very much. Now that we're done with that, now we just go down to our remaining drill. That is the words, idioms, as well as the spellings, right? Once again, I have to, emphasize on this that अगर आप लोगों को किसी भी किस्म की difficulty face होती है, right? कोई भी चीज़ आप लोगों को नहीं समझ आ रही, please do not hesitate to ask. Okay, just remember one thing: asking questions is very important. Until unless you don't ask questions, okay, your concepts are not going to be, they're not going to attain further clarification, right? इसमें आप ही का benefit है, so please, you have the comment section, the YouTube channel, right? Apart from that, I've also provided my email address. I provide my contact details in the comments below. So please, this is your right, okay? This is something that, fellas, that I'm doing for you, okay, to facilitate you. So please make sure you don't hold back, okay? आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. All right, now I hope everyone can see the screen properly. So today we are going to be talking about 5 words with meanings and sentences, right? 5 words with meanings or sentences. So number 1, you have phlegmatic, right? Phlegmatic is Phlegmatic. Phlegmatic. So phlegmatic basically means expressing little or no emotion. Yeah, expressing little or no emotion. So normally it's good to be phlegmatic, right? Especially at the workplace, right? Because there's that saying, right? If you are emotional, you won't be able to have a lot of control over your savings, over your money, right? So it's always good to be reserved. It's always good to be a little bit practical. This is something that is associated out there with work. So as you can see in this case, it's fitting that we brought up an example of a football coach, right? So phlegmatic means expressing little or no emotion. After our football coach was suspended because of his emotional outbursts, he went to seek therapy so he could work on being more phlegmatic. So he could work on being more phlegmatic, right? Then number two, you have pertinacious. Number two, you have pertinacious. 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 Pertinacious basically means someone who is stubbornly unyielding, right? Someone who doesn't, someone who refuses to budge, right? For example, पांच आपके लिए दोस्त हैं, right? उन्होंने जाने कहीं pizza खाने, right? Then there's always this guy, right? Who's gonna say, नहीं, I wanna have chicken कढ़ाई, right? खैर है, कभी कभार उनकी भी बात सुन लेनी चाहिए हमें, कभी कभार हमें बाकियों की सुननी चाहिए, right? I mean, it's sort of a compromising thing, right? But anyways, those four fellows would say that the person who is insisting again and again on the karahi, right? He's very pertinacious, right? He is stubbornly unyielding, right? So let's look at a sentence, right? The president remained pertinacious on the issue of tax cuts and refused to embark upon a compromise. The president said, nope, by foot, I will not be indulging in any sort of tax cut. There will be no more debate. There'll be no more negotiation. There's going to be no more, discussion on the matter. Topic closed. Done and dusted, ladies and gentlemen. So pertinacious means someone who is stubbornly unyielding. The president remained pertinacious on the issue of tax cuts and refused to embark upon a compromise. Number three means sanctimonious, right? Three means sanctimonious. The pretense of being morally pious to exhibit moral superiority, right? Sometimes, when we, like that saying, claiming a moral high ground just to show your moral superiority, right? And all, right? Just remember, whenever I think of this topic, I always remember that saying, of Ernest Hemingway, right? There is no competition when it comes to exhibiting, moral superiority, against your fellow creation, against your fellow human beings, right? True salvation, it lies in, attaining moral superiority over your formal self, right? Over your formal self, right? Just making sure that, you are better as compared to the person you were yesterday. Making sure that you are more positive, more generous, right? You are less concerned with power, wealth, fame, and all these things, right? Which also happen to be the pillars of Satanhood, right? And you make sure that you give something back to the community. I mean, we all are flawed, right? We all have our downcomings. There are stages in life where we feel very much reinvigorated by our faith, and there are times when you're finding it very difficult to hold on to it, right? But the beauty of life, right, it lies in keeping on trying over and over again, making sure that you don't back down no matter what happens. Yeah. So that being said, sanctimonious is the pretense of being morally pious to exhibit moral superiority, right? So a sentence, even though the minister had been arrested for drunk driving, he still had the nerve to act sanctimonious in front of the congregation. Even though the minister had been arrested for drunk driving, he still had the nerve to act sanctimonious in front of the congregation, right? Then number four, you have travesty. Number four is travesty. Travesty basically means distorting facts or imitation. Distorting facts or imitation, right? O'Brien described the controversial trial as a mockery and a travesty of justice, okay? As a destruction of justice, right? As a massacre of justice, right? So O'Brien described the controversial trial as a mockery and a travesty of justice, right? Then the fifth word for today is vociferous. You have vociferous, vociferous. So vociferous basically means something or someone who is extremely or offensively loud, right? Something or someone who is extremely or offensively loud. Sentence would be a vociferous anti-war activist. A vociferous anti-war activist. My aunt travels across the country making fiery speeches about the destruction caused by war. Okay, my aunt travels across the country making fiery speeches about the destruction caused by war. So, these are our 5 words for today. Now we, go to our second part. That is the third component essentially, because the first was the essay discussion. So yeah, now we talk about the 5 idioms for today, fellas. So number 1 is to stir up a hornet's nest, right? To stir up a hornet's nest. To stir up a hornet's nest basically means to provoke trouble. It's not that the management is not aware of few false bills here and there, but they don't call it because it would expose many and stir up a hornet's nest, right? Back against the wall, back against the wall is another idiom that means to be in a difficult position. To be in a difficult where escape is difficult, right? With has his back against the wall. Right? Then the third idiom for today is to bite off more than you can chew. Bite off more than you can chew. It means to try to do something that is too difficult for you. To try to do something that is too difficult for you, right? He has taken more responsibilities as he couldn't say no to his boss. He has taken more responsibilities as he couldn't say no to his boss. I think he has bitten more than he can chew and he'll struggle to handle them all. I think he has bitten more than he can chew and he'll struggle to handle them all. Next up, head over heels. Head over heels. Head over heels basically means to be very much involved in something. To be very much involved in something. Max fell head over heels in love with her colleague and wants to marry her. Max fell head over heels in love with her colleague and he wants to marry her. Then the fifth and final idiom for today is to upset someone's apple cart. Is to upset someone's apple cart, right? So that means to do something that causes a plan to go wrong. To upset someone's apple cart means to do something that causes a plan to go wrong. The increase in customs duty by the government has upset the apple cart of those car companies who were importing most of their car parts, right? The increase in custom duty by the government has upset the apple cart of those car companies who were, you could say, importing most of their car parts, right? Um, Now we move on to a final component that is our 10 spellings for the day. There you go, fellas. Activity for spelling activity, right? So the 10 spellings for today are that I would really like you to note down, right? Yeah, आप लोग अपनी diaries में note करते रहा करें, just make sure you keep practicing, right? Because these things you do get penalized if your spellings are not correct. So number one, you have activist, that is ACTIVIST, activist. Okay. Number two means fiery. Fiery means very passionate, very pumped up, very aggravated, very destructive, right? So fiery means FIERI. Sorry, the spelling is FIERRY. Fiery. The third spelling for today is offensive, right? Define something as reproachful, right? So OFFENSI. OFFENSI. And the fourth spelling for today is destruction. That is DESTRUCTIO. The fifth spelling today is controversial. CONTROVERSIAL. The sixth spelling is mockery. That is MOCKERY, mockery. Seventh is shoplifting. SHOPLIFTING. The eighth one is pious. PIOUS. Number 9 is therapy. THERAPY. And number 10, last but not the least, that one is going to be superiority. That is SUPERIORITY, superiority, right? So these are 10 spellings for today. So that basically, concludes our discussion for the day. So today we did a two-part question double essay along with our usual drill, right, fellas? So I hope you are understanding it much better at this stage. And once again, please make sure that you reach out to me for any sort of feedback. अगर आपको लगता है कि मैं कोई मजीद एक्टिविटीज इस चीज में ऐड कर सकता हूँ, right? So please, do let me know. Do bring it in my notice. And apart from that, right, stay blessed. Okay, keep on, just keep on going, keep on flourishing, keep on learning, keep on excelling every day. And may you get the best out there, right? आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. And see you soon. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.